Conservative Washington Post columnist Jennifer Rubin is getting dunked on for her thoughts about Bernie's debate performance in the South Carolina Democratic debate. So now she tweeted out, Bernie now digging his grave, blaming America for overthrowing governments. So that's just one of many negative tweets. And of course, look, you go in her, she's always trashing Bernie Sanders. It's not exactly news. But it is interesting that Rubin, again, somebody who works for the Washington Post, is now saying, oh, Bernie's done. I can't believe he would blame America for overthrowing other governments. Wait, are you saying that we haven't? I mean, because we have. we literally have overthrown other governments. Iran comes to mind, where the CIA overthrew the government because they dared to try to nationalize their oil industry and put a puppet government, the Shah, who then was overthrown by the people. And now that's why we have the situation we have with Iran. That's why they have a fundamentalist government, because we tried to overthrow theirs. Not to mention the numerous other places we have overthrown governments. In fact, in South America, there's not a leftist government that we haven't tried to topple. And Jennifer Rubin is going on and saying, how dare you blame the United States, blame America for our disastrous foreign policy, for things that we have actually done. I mean, she has no self-awareness or any awareness, or maybe she just thinks, oh, no, if it's a leftist leader, we totally have to overthrow it. I mean, suffice to say, that got a lot of pushback here. Aisha Sharna says, lady, go read books. Because, they have like information in them and facts and things that you can look up. But then again, she probably already knows the facts and doesn't care. Dave Zirin says, this tweet is performance art. Someone framed this. Well, look, this tweet's going to live on the internet, especially now that I'm talking about it. Because it is important, right? Will Bunch says, you want leaders to pretend that didn't happen? Name can't be blank says, please log off, read a history book. Ryan Doherty points out some of the governments America has overthrown. Guatemala, 1954. The Congo, 1960. The Dominican Republic, 1961. South Vietnam in 1963. Brazil in 1964. Chile, 1973. And those are just some of the governments that we have overthrown. Detachment Red says, what do you think we did during the Iraq War, which you happily supported? That is also important. Yes. And so now instead of calling it, overthrowing governments, now we call it regime change. Basically the same thing. We did regime change in Iraq, and look how that turned out. We also assisted with the regime change in Libya. They now have open air slave markets. Congratulations. We also did that with attempted to do that in Honduras. Or actually, I think we were successful in Honduras, which is disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. There's a coup. And so, look, we have a terrible history with our foreign policy in trying to overthrow and actually overthrowing mainly leftist governments. To ignore that history is to ignore the amount of suffering our foreign policy has caused. And not only that, but the effects that has now on the world. And it's not like it doesn't have effects. I mean, for example, what we did in Iraq paved the way for ISIS. Just saying. So, but there's more. There's more. And Actus Magus, by the way, in the tweet or in the chat says, this year, Trump voiced support for the coup in Bolivia. That is true. Was our Bolsonaro? No, sorry, that's Brazil. But yes, there was also a right-wing takeover in, like I said, Brazil with Bolsonaro. Evo Morales in Bolivia. getting overthrown, the coup there. And so there was also an attempted coup in, what was it? Another South American country, Venezuela, where the Trump administration was more than happy to support the basically opposition to Maduro. I mean, again, here we are in favor of inserting ourselves into other countries to overthrow their leaders, and people like Jennifer Rubin would say, yes, absolutely, that's what we're doing. More tweets here. JSB, I'm sorry, Lena says they didn't overthrow themselves, Jennifer. JSB adds, we literally did, Jennifer. And Nicola adds, if stating facts is digging your grave, you're going to live forever. Indeed. Jennifer Rubin is such a hack writer. But interestingly enough, or sadly enough, her takes have been welcomed by many in the resistance, right? Only because she is anti-Trump. So she thinks, oh no, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to basically get myself ingratiated with the Democratic establishment, and I'm going to tell them what people that they can pick to be president. Now, who is she against? Bernie Sanders. She's virulently anti-Bernie. And so these ex-Republicans or Republicans that are never Trumpers, they have basically, tried to take and tell Democrats who they should nominate. And instead of fixing their, fascist trash party, they come over and make sure the Democratic Party stays right wing. And that, I mean, because that's essentially where we are, to prevent us from going back to the left. I guess, and here's the issue, right? With Jennifer Rubin and people like Rick Wilson, and again, a lot of these ex-Republicans, they agree with Trump on the policy, right? But what they want is just a nicer face. Trump is too rude. He's saying the quiet parts out loud. He's embarrassing them one tweet at a time and basically ripping the mask off what is grotesque right-wing policies. Again, like foreign policy, like regime change, okay? And more tax cuts for the rich that destroy the economy, et cetera, deregulation that destroys the environment, waterways, all this stuff. Republicans like Jennifer Rubin, they're like, oh yeah, we love this. Even some of the immigration stuff. But again, they want a polite fascism. They want a nice face put on all of these horrendous policies, right? And so instead of, supporting that openly, because that, again, is embarrassing, they're going to go over to the Democratic Party and say, well, we need to have somebody who is a polite fascist. I know, maybe somebody like a Michael Bloomberg, who was a Republican, just like me. And so we agree on the issues. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just support that. And how dare Bernie Sanders come in with his actual left-wing populism? Oh, no, we can't have that. And so every terrible take from the Washington Post, almost every terrible take from the Washington Post, has come from hacks like Jennifer Rubin. And so I don't understand why they think at all that their opinion should have any weight among Democratic voters. I mean, they think that they might be having an effect, but actually they don't. Bernie Sanders is one of the most popular politicians in the country. He's one of the most popular Democratic politicians, for sure. And people like his policies. And moreover, polls show that Bernie Sanders, most Democrats believe that he can beat Donald Trump. And so, sadly for the Jennifer Rubins of the world, their advice is getting ignored despite those angry tweets. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.